All right, welcome back to Oregon Live at the Voice of College Football. It's 5 o'clock. We're back here in Eugene, ready to break down what really is, John, one of the great Oregon Duck wins, certainly in Dan Lanning's tenure, but just kind of in the history of Oregon. You go into the whiteout in Penn State and take down the Nittany Lions 30-24 in double overtime. Dylan Thieneman gets it, seals the game with a interception. It really elevates fantastic play, and we'll get into it. Let's just start with this. You've had a couple days to sit with it. What is this game? How much does it matter? Where does it, rank amongst games you've watched, against games in Oregon's history? What's it going to be? How important is this game going to be down the road?
Yeah, I would say that to me is kind of what you said there. It's defining for Lanning's time here at Oregon so far. You kind of look at his tenure with the Ducks over these last 4 years here. You're now here in year 4. And the win last year over Ohio State was yes, I am here and I'm here to contend for a national championship. He had been kind of in that position previously, the year before, had a great season, but couldn't get over the hump against UW. And then last year, that game against Ohio State was kind of the announcement of, Ohio State coming into Autzen and Autzen kind of turning them back, and Oregon turning them back and pulling off a big win. But this one, to go on the road, go into, one of 110,000 people at Beaver Stadium in a hectic environment in the whiteout, just, about as noisy and as loud and crazy as you can get. And to go come out of there with a win, and a win where, it wasn't like a fluky win either. I mean, you come out with this win in overtime, but Oregon played strong on both sides of the ball. They matched the physicality from Penn State. They matched the speed from Penn State, and they looked like they belonged on the field and looked like the better team on Saturday night. At least through the first 3 quarters of that game, until things got close again late. But defining win of Dan Lanning's term so far, of his tenure so far. Just to go in and get that kind of win on the road is really impressive stuff. And, that's traveling across the country to a traditional Big Ten power. That's saying, once again, Oregon is here and not to be messed with by these other Big Ten teams.
Yeah. I mean, and what I come back to is you can look at a 6-point first half combined, but it really feels like the Ducks did everything they understood and then did everything that they needed to do in this game. They stopped the run. They forced Drew Allen into mistakes. They were able to run through their running back room and not let Noah Whittington take all the reps and get tired by what's a really good defensive line. They were able to, play around a guy like Danny Janine Sutton, who can wreck a game. And Dante Moore, Dan Lanning said he looks like the best quarterback in college football.
Yeah, I mean, I have it on the sheet here also, but we can just talk about it a little bit right now. But after this weekend, Dante Moore has climbed to the top guy in the Heisman odds right now, basically across the board, it seems. People are really coming around on Dante Moore as not only a candidate for the Heisman Trophy, but as potentially a quarterback, a first-round guy, one of the QB1 candidates for, either this upcoming draft or the 2027 draft class, depending on, how long he does decide to stick in school. But Dante Moore has looked phenomenal so far. What do you think about, Dan Lanning's comments after that game, saying that he does think Dante is the best quarterback in college football? Because so far through these first couple of weeks, it's looked like, and it seems like the national consensus is kind of starting to fall into that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Heisman is built on a couple of things. It's built on, being one of the best players in the country, and then also, having a great story. And I think Dante Moore has both of those things. He really did perform at Penn State. That's one of the most difficult places to play in the country, and he looked ice cold. He was able. I was really impressed by his ability to look and then pull it down. There's a ton of times where he pulled it down and scrambled, and we can work on the sliding because he got knocked a couple times. But his ability to go through his progressions and understand when it's not there, and not to force something, which is what Aller does sometimes. That was honestly the difference in this game. Aller is also a great scrambler, but will sometimes try throws that aren't there. He hits Aaron Flowers right in the hands on a play where maybe Dante Moore pulls that down. But you talk about and part of it is does he have a Heisman moment? I don't know that he's got that yet. Some of these Penn State throws were great.
I was about to say that throw.
I'd say
right in overtime so far.
That could be your Heisman moment. I feel like you'd probably want something else, and that comes down the stretch. Bose, like you could say, was that throw against Oregon State.
Mm.
Dylan probably the run against Ohio State.
State.
But this guy has such a great story.
Mm-hmm.
People want him to rise to be the best player in college football because, you know, not that he was written off, but like people were like, hey, like I don't think he's the 5-star prospect that was once committed to Oregon and then came into UCLA and was able to be a starter. Yes, that puts him as the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman. There's so much more college football to play, and John Mateer now is out for at least a few games. And there are other guys around the league. Florida State lost. Tommy Castellanos, I don't know where he sits. I think he's got the best combination of ability and voter appeal via story.
Yeah, I definitely see what you're saying with the storyline stuff there. Just because it is something that you don't really see that much in college football, where a guy does make a really mature decision to say, hey, I kind of did jump into this too early and I wasn't ready for it at UCLA. Took a step back, sat behind Dylan Gabriel, and was able to learn the offense. And you've just seen it. And throughout the early parts of the season, you saw it at Penn State, how comfortable he is in the offense. And that's that development that he got last year. And that he got, all that extra time that he got to learn from a really experienced guy in Gabriel, but then just work in Stein's system, talk to Coach Stein all the time, working through different things. And then the poise is the other thing that really, really stood out from that Penn State game. And that's the thing that I've seen people kind of the talk about Dante Moore after that game is how poised he was in that game, facing the moment, facing big moments throughout the game, with pressure in his face, being able to escape out, hit receivers downfield. The play to DeCorian Moore that helped set up Jordan Davison's touchdown later on that drive was just absolutely phenomenal. The one to Kenyon Sadiq was phenomenal. There's a couple of the scrambles to pick up first downs. He did not have any fear at any moment. And then like I said, the play to Gary Bryant at the end of that game, he's got denied Dennis Sutton right in his face coming off the edge as a free rusher. And he just gets right around him, no fear from Dante at all, and hits his receiver over the middle and lets him get in for a touchdown. A really impressive performance for, you don't want to call him a kid because he does have, he's in his third year in college football now. He's got that starting experience from his freshman year, but, this is his first season really going into as the guy, the starter,
man, he's 20 years old. Exactly. As a career 20-year-old, that is impressive.
Handle that environment, some of the situations he was in, not press, take everything that defense was giving him. They threw a lot of stuff to the outside to utilize the screen game as an extension of the running game on the outside and use those guys like De'Aaron Hill, his speed and stuff like that. And Dante just operated really cleanly the whole time. So I was super impressed by that. You come out of that stat line, it's 248 and 3 touchdowns. No picks. Like 248, it's not like he threw for 400 yards or anything, but no one was going to go into the Penn State whiteout and throw for 200 or for 400 yards. 248, 3 touchdowns, no picks, just a really clean game. That's what you're looking for for your quarterback in an environment like that, and Dante Moore absolutely delivered.
Yeah, absolutely. Very impressive. I'll get into it. He's in my exclamation points and question marks, so I'll say.
We have more stuff coming on Dante Moore. Don't worry. Before we do get into our exclamation points and question marks, things we're excited about and still concerned about through week 5, I do want to ask you, Oregon climbs to number 2 in the latest AP poll, only behind Ohio State. They jump ahead of Miami. Penn State drops to number 7. Indiana, Oregon's next opponent, up to number 8. Where are you thinking after this latest poll? You think the Ducks ranking is fair at number 2? And how do you feel like your expectations have kind of changed compared to where the national expectations have been at after this Penn State game?
Yeah, I have the Ducks at 2 as well. That's where that's where I think they should be. We had a little conversation after the game about whether they could rise to number 1, and I think it's they were closer to rising to number 1 than falling down into that 4 or 5 range, and only jumping like 1 or 2 spots after the win. But you can't unseat Ohio State, who really overcame a tough start to that game to play well in a really difficult place to play. And also, it doesn't matter. Whoever, it's looking like the winner of the Big Ten will be the number 1 seed, but we'll see. Winner of the Big Ten or the SEC goes number 1. As cool as it would be, it's not worth it right now. I thought a little bit about why Penn State fell so far. Because, on the surface, it feels like going all the way down to number 7 from number 3 is really tough for a team that lost in double overtime and came back and did what it did. But, we go back to the advantages that Penn State had in this game. You're coming off a bye. You're playing at home in a phenomenal home environment. You have, probably the more experienced team. You have guys like Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, and Deni Dennis Sutton, who are all, third, fourth year players. Drew Haller. And number one, to get outperformed on the stat sheet, especially in the first half, as much as they did is really frustrating. And to fail to take advantage of those things, to fail to take advantage of Deni Dennis Sutton and to have Oregon play such great run defense that you can't, I think, what was it, the first drive in the second half, they were like a couple yards away from doubling their first half total just on that drive.
Yeah.
7 seems low for me, but I understand why they fell that far, because even though this was a close game and you value coming back in it, this team had all, the cards in its favor except, failed to take advantage.
Yeah, people were saying this was the game that was set up for, this is the one that was set up for Penn State to finally win the big game, because it was Oregon going in there and not Ohio State or Michigan. It was a newer Big Ten powerhouse team. Penn State was the favorite this time. They were at home at the whiteout, still couldn't get it done. Not to take anything away from Oregon and what Dan Lanning did, but we've seen the questions of James Franklin and his ability in big games before. So those continue to linger. And with where they're at in the rankings now, there was just a lot of shakeup in general, I think, because you do have Georgia goes down, LSU goes down. They dropped them all the way down to number 12 and number 13. So there's just a lot of shakeup. Some new teams got their first loss. They bumped some of those still undefeated teams up a bit. So still things moving around, but looking like we're going to have another, we are, because Indiana's also on bye this week, but it's going to be another undefeated top 10 matchup of Big Ten teams at Autzen Stadium in a couple of weeks. So that's very exciting to look forward to.
It's great. I got that in my